Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, fears envelop parts of Benue State as herdsmen reportedly kill 81 people in fresh attacks. A visit to Bakassi and Akpabuyo local government areas in Cross River State show calm against reports of breakdown of law and order. Awaiting trial, inmates in Kirikiri prison complain of delayed justice as prison authorities seek government intervention. As South Sudan is back to war as rival factions clash, hundreds of people feared dead. Also, Britain's Andy Murray beats Canada's Milos Raonic in straight sets to claim a second Wimbledon title. Survivors and victims of herdsmen attacks in Logo and Ukum Council areas in Benue State have been recounting how 81 persons were killed in recent attacks. The traditional ruler of Logo, Chief Jimmy Meme, spoke to Channels Television on the invasion of rural communities. He said 70 persons were killed in 6 of the 10 council wards in his domain. Police authorities have, however, dismissed allegations of dereliction of duty by security personnel.
Undernourished children are a common sight among the residents of the Angin internally displaced persons camp in Logo, where mothers do their best to keep their offspring alive and fed. The sick and elderly persons are among those who fled from Nenzev and Ukembragia, Tsarev Council wards of Logo local government area. An intelligence report also lists Turan, Bagbe, Yonov and Tombo, also in Logo, among the areas attacked on the same day as Avase in Ukum local government area, with over 80 people massacred. There are some who are lucky to be alive after being shot by the rampaging herdsmen. They and others managed to escape with various degrees of injury.
He was here very early in the morning because he was shot in the night. And he died. Today he's walking with a stick. That day he was limping. He couldn't walk by himself. And he was bleeding all over.
We are about 5 council wards within this area that are mostly affected. So far, what they normally do is they have their food themselves. And they sleep in these classrooms without a mosquito net, without medical attention and nothingness.
According to the paramount ruler of Logo, the attacks by the herdsmen, which have exacted a very heavy toll, appear to have an underlying motive.
They want the land. They want to push people away so that they can get the land and rear their cattle as they want. That's all. There's nothing more than that, because they don't want to see anybody living or farming on that piece of land.
The consistent inability of the security agencies to arrest the perpetrators of the coordinated attacks is not lost on Governor Samuel Otom.
We've been appealing to the security agencies. We have been supporting them to ensure that they restore peace and order. And it is unfortunate that up to today that I'm talking to you, there is no time that the security men came back to tell me that one arrest has been made against the herdsmen and their militia.
However, the police authority in Benue State denies shirking its responsibilities, insisting that the number of those killed was a lot less than the figures quoted by the residents.
I think we recorded about 11 deaths in Ukum and 11 in Logo, based on our own records. And since then, our crack team have been deployed to that area. They have been stationed in those areas, and there's aggressive patrols in those areas with surveillance.
The leadership of Mieti Allah, the Association of Cattle Breeders, dissociates itself from the invaders and promises to help track down the perpetrators.
This one, it will go on beyond where we expect. So now we have putting people into an alert that whomever will be this thing will face the penalty, because, as I'm saying, we have tired, and we need peace.
11 local government areas in Benue State are reported to have come under sustained attacks by armed herdsmen since February this year, with vast tracts of farmland occupied by the cattlemen, who appear to be having a field day.
The governor of Plateau State, Mr. Simon Lalong, has been explaining the policy of ranches designed to resolve cases of clashes between herdsmen and farmers across the country. Speaking on our program, Sunday Politics, the governor differentiated between the grazing reserves and ranches. He cited the reasons behind the adoption of ranching and the modalities.
Susan's committee made far-reaching recommendations, which includes ranches or grazing reserves and grazing routes. Now, for me, on the plateau, it will be difficult.
Why?
To go for grazing reserves.
Why will it be difficult?
The routes are not available. You can't say they get the routes now. Because a typical route, if you are talking of route, although the law is there, you can't get the route. In some of the routes, you find out that the government, it is occupied by government buildings, government structures. If you go to Abuja today, many of the parts that you see there are grazing routes. I will even not be surprised if the villa, the structure of the villa was also grazing route. So when we look at it, we look at the pros and the cons, we look at the advantages of the two. And the recommendation was that we should go for ranches.
Because one will wonder again in the characteristics of some of these herdsmen carrying guns. In Nigeria, it is illegal for you to carry arms. What have you been able to do?
What I did in my state was, first of all, to introduce dialogue. Dialogue.
Has it worked?
It has worked.
That is reduced the attacks?
Very well now in Plateau State. Before, you can't come to Plateau. People were not coming to Plateau. In the last year, this time, people were not coming to Plateau. Plateau was just seen on the map of Nigeria as a crisis area, killings here and there. But when we came today, you can't see that crisis, you can't see that killings again.
Plateau State's Governor, Mr. Simon Lalong. Many Nigerians are still disturbed about recent killings of young citizens abroad. Now, during the week, a 17-year-old Nigerian, Fola Orebi, was stabbed to death by a gang of youths who chased him into a busy road in London. Thereafter, another Nigerian, 36-year-old Emmanuel Nnamdi, was killed in Italy, having been punched in the stomach in the town of Fermo in Italy. Now, a few years ago, 10-year-old Damilola Taylor was also stabbed to death on his way back from school. What really is the federal government's policy in confronting these issues, these racial issues? I'm being joined on the news at 10 now by the President's Senior Special Assistant Advisor on Foreign Affairs and Diaspora, Mrs. Abike Dabiri Erewa. She joins us from our studios in Abuja. Mrs. Dabiri Erewa, thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Thank you, Amarachi, and good evening, Nigerians.
Good evening. Is the government really bothered about this news? Because it seems it took a while before there was a response.
No, that's not true. The response was immediate, and the response came from my office. Immediately the news came to us, we responded immediately, and we made it clear that President Muhammadu Buhari will not condone Nigerians being killed anywhere in the world, whether here or abroad. But as it relates to Nigerians, and by the way, my condolence on the story on the herdsmen being killed, that was pathetic, and Mr. President has given instruction that all that hopefully will be a thing of the past very soon. So my condolence on that violence, very devastating. And now to the issue of diaspora. We responded immediately and made it clear that this will not be tolerated by this administration. Fola was killed, as of course you know, a 17-year-old young chap who just finished his college education, was killed in very devastating circumstances. Apart from issuing a statement immediately condemning the act, we've also been in touch with the British High Commission here, as well as the family of Fola. We've been able to establish contact with the mother, and we'll be sending a letter as instructed by Mr. President to the mother tomorrow. And for the case of Chidi in Italy, well, that was a serious case of a racial attack. And in as much as the mayor was on top of the situation, and in fact he said he was embarrassed at that, we take exception to Nigerians being killed anywhere in the world, as Mr. President has directed, and that will not be condoned by Nigeria. And in the case of Emmanuel Chidi, we're also trying to establish contact with the family and pay the condolence of Mr. President to his family too. So really, this is not something that is acceptable to Mr. President, to Nigeria and Nigerians. And for the case of Falajimi, we're glad that 4 people have been arrested in connection with his death. And in the case of Chidi, I think 1 person has been arrested, and the person is known to be a serious racist.
So is it a time that we send, because we're hearing these stories coming up from time to time about Nigerians being killed abroad, isn't it time we sent a strong message confronting the treatment of our citizens abroad, apart from messages of condemnation?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've had cases even before this where we've had to intervene in maltreatment of Nigerians abroad, though it did not become a media sensation. So Mr. President has made it clear that this will not be tolerated, and we're going to be on top of these 2 cases till we get to the very end of it. And what we're demanding is that justice will be done. Yes, we cannot bring back these innocent Nigerians, but justice must be done. And Mr. President has instructed that we ensure that we follow this case through and ensure that justice is done, and send a strong message that gone are the days when this will happen to Nigerians and we keep quiet. We are not going to keep quiet. We're going to ensure that our citizens are treated with respect, with dignity, and respect begets respect. Of course, we're going to stress that if you commit a crime, you will pay for the crime. But we have many cases of Nigerians who didn't commit any crime and are treated shabbily. Many cases of Nigerians being sentenced to even death for offenses they didn't commit. So we're going to ensure we intervene in those cases. And we indeed have been intervening with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, though they are not media cases, but indeed in the last few months, a lot of intervention has been done on the part of the office and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Now, remember, apart from these 2 cases, there was another case that you followed up very closely, which is the case of the son of Aisha Falode, the veteran sports newscaster, sports journalist. You do have some updates on that story.
Well, the case of Aisha Falode's son, you recall it happened in the last administration, now without any prompting. You remember Mr. President was in Dubai some time ago. Without any prompting, this was a matter that was brought up with the Dubai authorities. But the sad case about Toba Falode, Aisha Falode's son, is that the guy who committed the act has actually relocated from Dubai. So it's a bit difficult to do anything at this point in time. When we should have done something as a nation, we did nothing. The only institution that spoke then was the parliament. The speaker then, Aminu Tambuwa, indeed set up a 3-man committee, but there was no cooperation from the executive level. But now President Buhari has directed we reopen the case, but unfortunately, the guy who committed the offense has left that country, gone to his country, so it just might be a bit difficult. What are you going to do? Ask Dubai to repatriate him? But that is a very sad case, and it's a case that tells us that we must act fast when things happen to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. So for Toba Falode, well, we're still talking to them, but I think it's going to be a bit difficult because the guy himself has left Dubai, and when we should have acted, Nigeria did not act. That is a sorry case and pathetic situation, which President Buhari says must not happen under his administration.
Mrs. Dabirero, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We know you will follow up on these cases and we'll be reaching out to you for more information on them. Thank you for joining us tonight. In part 2, after the break, we bring you the plight of awaiting trial inmates at the Kirikiri prison in Lagos. Do stay with us.